cats. And when we come to that place of horses, the best gift we can bring them is ourselves in the most authentic, raw, vulnerable, joyous, frustrated, confused, whatever it is that we are feeling, or the presence of place that we're in. They hold space for that, and they accept us as we are. So I would say probably above the many, many things that horses bring and share, that benevolent love and acceptance that they allow for us.
That's really beautiful. And what Lisa was saying about communicating with animals in on their frequency and the different frequencies, for example, cats and horses being a bit higher frequency sometimes, and using images to communicate. Do you find it works the same way, or have horses got a very distinctive way of communicating? What's their frequency?
Well, I think that I heard one of my teachers called horses land dolphins, an ancient tradition of indigenous beliefs around that there's an equine cetacean combination, so to speak, that high frequency that we tend to associate with dolphins and their intelligence and their intellect, as well as their spiritual nature. I absolutely see and recognize that within the horse, within the equine. And then horses are, as Lisa knows, with all animals, they're all individuals as well. So I am blessed to share my life with 4 horses. And so they certainly have a common presence and frequency and essence, and yet each of them is completely unique and gifted in their own right. So I love their unique horses of a different color, right? They are all different colors. And Mark Rashid wrote a book many years ago called A Good Horse is Never a Bad Color. And I just love that. And would that we could attribute that in our human mindset as well. But horses are really evaluating us based on, I think when we walk in with them, first of all, their fields are so big, so they know who's coming before we actually get there, so to speak. But they read our vibration and our frequencies, so they're able to discern in the subconscious programming, which our body is our subconscious mind. So they're able to kind of tune in to where we are in our physiology as well, and where there's limitations. So, for example, a few years ago, I had a tumor in my left breast, and I didn't know that it was there at that point. And my mare Grace kept coming up and putting her head in my heart, and there was hard things going on in our lives. So I thought, oh, she's just comforting me. But then when I got the diagnosis later, it's like, wow. She was actually pointing out to me that there was something I needed to pay attention to that I wasn't paying attention to.
They're really beautiful animals. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about the equine healing. How does that work? I mean, when somebody comes to you, you get people coming to you and they say, oh, I have this problem, I have this ailment, I need help. And you then said, how does that all work? How does a consultation work? How do you pair them with an animal? Take us through how that all works.
Well, I work with when I first started working in this field, I was a school teacher and a school counselor, and the children actually taught me a lot about what the practice and what sessions need and the programs needed to look like. They were in cahoots with the horses to teach me and to throw away all of the trimmings that I thought needed to be in place, and actually to let go of control, to let go of the agenda, and to allow the magic to unfold and let the horses take the lead, so to speak. So I literally became a translator. I would communicate what I was seeing through the horses, nonverbal communication, but also, like with Lisa, what was going on in me claircognizantly or visually, what pictures they were sending me or showing me, what my intuition was saying. They've taught me a lot about listening to my intuition and sharing that when it's appropriate. So when I used to work with one horse, with one child or one adult, now the horses have really said, we don't want to be separated. We want to be together as a herd. So when I work with individuals or groups, the horses are almost always in the pasture together, and they're at liberty. So they get to choose which one of them comes, for how long, when, in what context. And then it's just this natural gestalt that unfolds, and it's just transformational. And because horses live in the present moment, the work that we tend to do with the horses, even though people will bring a goal, a lot of times when we go in with the horses will go, especially my mare Grace, no, we're not doing that today. It's actually about this. And so when we allow the horses to be our guides, and we trust ourselves with their wisdom, it's amazing how quickly and potently something that is come for healing or transformation or awareness can shift and change. And just a quick story. A friend of mine was, I'm going to go back to that C thing. A friend of mine was diagnosed with testicular cancer. And he'd never been around horses, but he phoned me. He said, Sandra, I don't know why, but I just keep getting this message. I need to come out and spend time with you and your horses. And I said, well, of course, come. And at that time, the horses here were only two, Chiron and Grace. And Chiron is this real busybody horse, and Grace was more of the lead mare, the Gaia wisdom. And we walked into the paddock, and Chiron, who would normally have to be involved, stayed back, and Grace just beelined right up to my friend. And he was a little bit nervous because she was coming so fast. And she stopped right in front of him, and she put her nose right down below his belt area and just started to breathe, but not the kind of breathing that horses normally do. It's more like a dragon breath. So she'd breathe in, and then she'd go, and she did that for about 5 minutes right into his body. And he said, what's happening? What's happening? I said, it's okay. We'll just trust her. Let's just trust her. And he relaxed into it, and she stood there and she breathed. And after 5 or 10 minutes, she dropped her head to his feet and then left and walked away. And he said, I think she must know. And I said, I think she must know too. And then 2 weeks later, he phoned and he said, Sandra, I went in for my checkup. I don't have prostate cancer anymore.
Wow.
So now, clinically speaking, in terms of a scientific perspective, can we verifiably attribute the transformation or the change to horse breath? No. But for those of us that are tuned in a different way, hell yes.
I'm with you on that one. I think most of the people on this transmission are going to say the same. That's a beautiful story, my God. Beautiful. And now I'm going to go back to Lisa, because I want to talk a little bit about the animals that you work with, Lisa. Do you find, like I've heard this has been a common thread with people, they'll say, particularly about cats, that they will take on the illness of a human. I've heard that from countless people I know. One lady I know who said her cat died, and she really feels that the cat took a bullet for her in some way because she was going through a tough time and the cat got really ill. So is there a real correlation between animal and human? Do they kind of take on a lot of stuff for us? Talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, they absolutely do. Well, some of the stories that I had, for example, my friend's dad, I'll never forget it. He got cancer of the throat, and I'd never met the dad, but I knew the dog a bit, and I just said, I knew it was the dad's dog, and they were very close because my friend had spoken about it. And I just said to him, you know what, you want to make sure that dog doesn't start lying on your dad's throat. And he said, that's exactly what she's been doing. I said, she's trying to pull that cancer out, and the animals will sometimes pull it into their body, and then the human can get better, and then the animal dies. Or some of the times I see animals that not only take on physical conditions, but they'll take on the emotional conditions of the humans as well. And the way I know that happens is when I do an animal reading, I write all the information down that comes through, and then I write it up and I send it to the human. They go, God, you know what? I've got really bad arthritis, and I'm a little bit depressed as well, and my eyesight is going as well. And there's all these mirrors. So then we have to have a chat with the animal and just say, no more. You don't need to carry this for your human anymore. And what I find is a lot of people who do a bit of animal work, or a lot of animal work, sometimes say it's always the human's fault, but that's not my experience. I think sometimes the animals genuinely have their own illness, and once you can help them through it, you can see miraculous things. Like they'll heal a lot quicker. As I said, they've less baggage. Like there was a dog I worked on recently who had severe epilepsy, was having fits like 40 minutes long and 4 to 5 fits a day. And the regular vet said it was time for euthanasia, that they tried the different types of epileptic medicines. And lo and behold, the lady heard about me at the last minute, which is usually what happens. So I went in, and in this instance, with this severe condition, like the Guardian didn't have epilepsy, but this dog had an unwillingness to fully be in this earth, was disconnected from the soul. So we kept trying to go back, kept trying to check out, to leave. And this is where the grand mal seizures were coming from. So by healing the dog with the crown chakra and taking that energy out, I went a bit shamanic in this healing, I will tell you that. And from that day forward, he hasn't had any more fits, because we gave the dog the choice to leave or go back home. You know, there was a proper connection made. If you want to leave, here's the connection now, fully made. There's no more blockages. But also, if you want to stay, you can still stay dialed in and be here on this earth. And touch wood, to this day, the seizures have stopped, you know, but I don't know if they'll come back again, if there'll be another layer, etc., etc. But the dog is still alive, and yeah, so it can manifest in many different ways, you know.
And talk a little bit about, Lisa, about you and Sandra have connected before. You did Sandra's course, and what correlation did you see between your work and her work? And do you work with horses as well? Talk to us about that connection.
Yeah. So I do work with horses. I have a lot of horse clients that I'll do the animal communication work with. Sometimes I'll go down to the stable and actually have a communication with the Guardian and the horse to try and work through some issues where I'm telepathically communicating with the horse. And sometimes if they have a herd of horses, like Sandra does similarly, they'll be at liberty in the field and the whole herd will come over and they'll all want to contribute in their own ways. And I'm acting as a translator, but really the emotions is the language and the healing is the language. So that's how I would introduce it that way. And why I was drawn then to Sandra's work when I saw that she was coming here to Ireland is I wanted, from my personal experience, I had to learn how to horse ride because I had to do a full-on horse riding trip in another part of the world up a mountain, and I had to learn pretty quick how to ride. And I found myself being in riding schools and being thrown up onto all these horses, and in my animal loving self, it didn't rest well with me. But I needed to ride because you could only go where we're going on horseback. And when I saw Sandra was here, for me, it was such a breath of relief, because I thought, here is a conscious horse woman who will teach me and show me another side of the horse world, where horses are worked on the ground, but in a really conscious way, and allowing the horse to mirror back to you what your stuff is. So for me, it was my healing why I went to Sandra, because all the other work I'm doing, I guess, is for other people's healing. So it was nice for me to be in that space where the horses could mirror back and pull me up on my game.
And I'm going to go back to Sandra in a sec, but before I do, just for people who are watching now here online, and they probably have animals and pals, and they connect with animal friends. What, like, if they never go to an animal communicator, if they just feel like, you know, it's not something they want to pursue, what kind of very simple things can you do to work more in harmony with an animal that you would say?
Yeah. I think the easiest way to get down into a state where the animal will be free enough to communicate with you in their way, because they're your animal friend, family, you know them the best. is for you to get as still as you can within yourself. As Sandra was saying, it's, you know, the horses are in this present moment place. So are the cats or the dogs, the birds, all of them. So in the present moment, if you get to a place of stillness within yourself and focusing on your breath and calming down your own thoughts and going more into the heart space, like we did with your meditation today, Paul, and then you open your eyes and then you look at your animal and you know, you say, what have you got to show me today? And the animal, then there's just this new space. You know, the animal can feel like they're more peaceful, and then however they respond in that moment is the appropriate way for them. Maybe they need to show you that they're upset. Maybe they need to show you that they want to play. Maybe they need to show you that they're feeling a bit sleepy, a bit relaxed. They're enjoying the you know, meditative energy. So then it just creates a space for them to show you for a change. You've become more receptive to them because we're so busy. You know, we're just so busy. So the animals don't get that often.
I got an animal communicator once, and I used to meditate a lot when I lived with the cat. My cat has since passed on. But when we were living together, the communicator said to me, she came over to the house and she checked and she chatted to the cat. And I was, you know, obviously I'm into all this kind of stuff, but there's a part of you that sometimes thinks you're a bit nuts. You know, you're like, am I really getting an animal communicator to come around to the apartment? And so it went really well. And then she said to me, oh, you know, Jinx was the cat's name. She doesn't really like you burning the incense. And I said, oh, really? So, like, where's her share of the rent? You know, what's going on with this cat? And I just cracked up. And then I know that I forgot about it. And a week later, I could burn incense and I'd bring it around her and she would look at me like, put that stuff away. And I was like, wow, this stuff is so on the money, you know?
Oh, it is.
It's just so funny. It's so much comedy in it. And I love what you said there about just dropping into the heart and opening more up and allowing the animal to say what they need to say. That's beautiful. So thanks, Lisa. And we'll go back to Sandra now. Sandra, that story you told before we went to Lisa was just amazing about that chap. Is there a few more healing stories that you'd like to share, or what's going on with your work right now that's particularly, you know, getting you excited? Particularly right now as we're going through this kind of transition around the whole world of health. That we really need to take back responsibility for our own health. What are you seeing that we could, you spoke briefly at the beginning before people came on about that we need to start really, you know, connecting more with consciousness, connecting more with nature, connecting more with our own inner power. Talk to me a bit about that and what's exciting you about your work right now.
Thank you for the question. I love, for me, listening to the horses they've been my greatest teachers. I've had the blessing of working and learning with incredible teachers along my 55 years, that the horses have to be the ones that have been the most profound. And they keep teaching me about what needs to come next in terms of my own personal evolution, as well as the evolution of what it is that I'm teaching and sharing. And Chiron was the horse that taught me about conscious horsemanship, because in the work that I do, helping people learn how to do the work that is similar to what I'm doing, that's what I came over to Ireland to share, was an introduction to conscious horsemanship. And it started because as much as I include this idea about affect contagion, which means emotions are contagious, which is what you were talking to Lisa about, really, that the emotion, that the animals are so, they care about us so much that it's almost like that movie, The Green Mile. I don't know if you've seen that, where he just takes the illness into his body, but at some point it takes a toll. So for me, when we look at the work that we're doing in terms of the reflective work and the transformational work with horses, it's on the ground. There's studies that have been done that actually show that the cortisol levels in horses rise, meaning their stress level is being profoundly affected by doing this quiet, peaceful looking work where actually emotions and catharsis and transformations are occurring, because we're releasing that, and they're being affected by it. We are as well, but the horses profoundly so. So it was this interface where I said, okay, I'm bringing people out to the horses all the time. My beautiful family of horses I have to be able to create some sort of filter so that before people meet the horses, they've gone through a process where this is going to sound, but that we're cleaner, that we're not as laden with the trauma or the toxicity of the lives that we've been living. So the horses don't have to carry us in such a heavy way, that they can do the work that I believe they're meant to do, which will tap into Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where they're working with us in the top of the pyramid in terms of self-actualization. So instead of the horses always working with us at this survival level, this cut and claw and fight and flight base level, that they can engage with us at these higher levels of the spiritual realm and of healing. So that's where conscious horsemanship came from, because the time I was telling you about with Grace, where she was putting her head here during that tough time in our lives, Chiron got colic. And he'd never been sick a day in his life. He's vitally healthy. And we were 4 days of touch and go, the vet being out, trying everything, me trying everything that I knew how to do, but nothing was helping him. And on that 4th day, I was out there and I thought, I'm just going to sit down with him for a while, because he's not allowed to lay down when he has colic. He has to keep moving. And we were all exhausted, all of us that were here. And I sat for a moment and I just realized, gosh, my guts are just in a knot. Well, that's what colic is. And so it was like the universal acorn bonked me on the head saying, Sandra, you talk about this all the time, but here it is right in your own backyard. Your stuff is affecting the well-being of your beautiful Chiron. So right in that moment, I did a balance, which is a process that I use and teach to transform the subconscious stress that was going on. And as my guts softened and the stress left my system, Chiron farted and pooped, which is music to horse lovers' ears when they have colic, for the first time in 4 days, and dropped his head and started to eat. And so that's where conscious horsemanship was born. It was like, okay, intellectually understand the construct, but here he's showing me it has to be more than just paying lip service. You have to walk this walk, sister. So now that becomes part of all of the things that I teach here. And how do we help the human come to the relationship with the animals, whether it's in equine assisted leadership or learning, whether it's the goldfish that we have in our pond, whether it's our cats that come and visit us and stay for 2.5 years, whatever it might be. The best thing that we can do, the greatest gift we can give the world, the animals, is that of our own transformation, Lao Tzu. So I think that when we take responsibility for ourselves, doesn't mean we have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but to just be in integrity about where we are and just say to our animals, hey, I'm a little stuck today. Can you give me a little bit of room, or can you give me a little love, or can you give me a little advice? I think this is a great way of helping our animals stay healthy as well as us.
Well, that's the happiest fart anybody ever heard, by the look on your face. You were so delighted. I can't say farts have been that brilliant for me over the years. I'm glad it made your day.
It made my day. It made his too.
Brilliant. So we're going to go to questions now from the audience soon. But before we do, I'm just going to ask you, Sandra, I know you've worked a little bit with Bruce Lipton, or you're connected to him in some way. And we did an event on Psych K. Was that the healing modality that you worked with Bruce on? And tell us a little bit about, do you use that at the moment, and how you feel about Bruce's work with epigenetics as well?
Well, Bruce is, as much as you see him on the media, that he's this little energizer bunny just filled with love, he absolutely is that. So I'm a Psych K instructor and I teach it internationally, and it is the heart of really the philosophy of conscious horsemanship is how do we, when I said I did a balance, that was a Psych K balance that I was doing out there in with the horses. And that's what I teach people how to do with horses, is because the horses bring up our limiting beliefs like nothing else. And then what do you do with that? Well, you work with the psychological kinesiology, or Psych K. And Rob Williams is the originator of Psych K, and he and Bruce are very dear friends. And Rob, after I did a balance around wanting to meet Bruce Lipton, 2 days later, Rob phoned me and said, Sandra, is this Langley anywhere close to you? And I went, yeah, it's right across the river. Why? And he said, well, Bruce and I are coming up to teach a class to a group of First Nations people. Would you be interested in coming and help co-facilitate? So I said, oh, let me check my schedule. No, I'm just kidding. I thought, of course, of course, of course. And so that's where I met Bruce. And he then asked me if I would consider teaching that belief change program in the maximum security prison here, which is where one of the elders, worked as an elder in the prison. And the reason Rob and Bruce came up was that here in Canada, at least, we have a disproportionate amount of First Nations people in the prison system. It's just completely imbalanced. And they wanted to be able to give back and support in some way. So if Bruce Lipton asks you to go and do something, you absolutely, at least if you're me, you say, of course, when, where, how, let's figure it out. So I've taught there now for a number of years. Bruce and I and Tom, who's the elder, we actually went into Northern Alberta, into the Big Stone Cree Nation, and taught the science, psychology, and spirit of change. So Bruce did his beautiful biology of belief evening, and then I taught the Psyche program, and then Tom and Leonard Cardinal did a UWP, or a night lodge ceremony. So we had all three of those pieces coming together. And then I picked Bruce up at the airport, and we went to do the Sundance together, where we bled, sweated, celebrated, and danced in the intense heat of that powerful, powerful gift of ceremony. So it's been a blessing getting to know him and work with him, and I love him from the bottom of my heart. And if there's any chance that anybody who's listening has an opportunity to be in his presence, he won't mind me saying this, he's like a horse in the best sense of the word, because he just is so powerfully connected. When we did the ceremony, he was given this amazing name by the Tree of Life, and it's absolutely him, and it speaks to his powerful capacity to share and spread transformation universally, actually. So yeah, Bruce is a beloved and a dear, 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 dear person.
Yeah, I love his work. His work is amazing. And I met him once in Dublin, and I thought he was too nice. It was ridiculous how nice he was. I was looking at him going, what are you doing? Like, that's over nice. But he's got this, he just loves you the moment he meets you. You know, I've met a lot of spiritual teachers, and they're all obviously quite lovely. But he was like nuts. He was just on, like, I think he was with his wife. And didn't they write that book, The Honeymoon Effect, or something?
Margaret. And he wrote that with Steve Behrman, who's really a lovely, lovely gentleman. More about the comedian. His name is Swami Shamat. I can't remember now. His name is out of my head, but he's just down in Washington. And he wrote that about how really meeting Margaret, and how they really experience their honeymoon still every day of their lives. But it's the lens, it's our belief lens. So when we're looking out at the world through a lens and a perception that says life is beautiful, then this is what life actually becomes when we help co-create this beautiful world around us. And so he believes in that kind of love, and he and Margaret completely epitomize and embody that kind of love as well. They're just,
yeah, they really do. That book is well worth reading. Anybody wants to check that book out. So now, all you lovely people, if you want to have a question there, just type it into the chat box and tell me who it's for. Is it for Lisa or Sandra? And we'll get rolling on our little Q&A now. So we plan to have about a 30-minute Q&A. Okay. And if anybody has their animal with them, we might do a little gallery view and say hello to a few of your animals if you want. Anybody got their animal friend with them? I'm just having a scan.
Hi, Kim and Rod. I see you on the couch.
So let me see.
Heather's got her dog there. I see Heather.
Yeah. Anybody typing any questions? So let me just go. I'll do.
Mayla's got, who's that with you, May? Your doggy? Lola. Mayla's with Lola. Oh.
Okay, so we got a few animal pals coming in there.
Yeah. Hi, Alexandra. My cat Georgie's here, but he's not playing ball.
No, he's not interested.
No, he's like, I want your full attention.
Hi,
So
Connie.
we have Kim saying something to us there. Okay.
You want to say hi?
So while we're waiting on some questions, I just want to ask you, Lisa, what's the most what's really stood out for you in terms of an experience you had with an owner and an animal that just really enhanced, just really validated the work that you do? You went, wow, I got to keep doing this.
Gosh.
Both of them.
Yeah, all of them, like for me, because when I work with the animals, I don't just do the reading and then just leave it. I always do a follow-up after it. And for me, when I get people that say have a dog that would be really lungy on a walk, like I remember there was one lady, she was so afraid to bring her dog for walks in normal places where other people and dogs are, and even at normal times. She would walk the dog at like 5 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock at night, because the dog was a bit big and quite lungy on the lead, and she was genuinely afraid and she wasn't able to control the dog. And it was consuming her life, because she really loved the dog, but she was exhausted having to come all the way up to the mountains here. I'm in the Wicklow Mountains. She would come all the way up here from like kind of down near Black Rock way to walk the dog, where the dog could be let off and run free for a change. And after one reading then, and she started the drops, the dog just completely calmed down, and she just couldn't believe it. Like life went, here's Georgie now. All in his own time. So life went back to normal, for her and the dog, and they could then have inclusive living. So that for me, when you hear stories like that, because it's not a nice way to live for the dog either, think
Sure.
of the stress hormones and all the energy that goes into that.
Sure. We've got a few questions rolling in now. So here's a question for both of you. I have a friend whose horse has had a trauma related to having a saddle on. He has had a full physical workup and we feel it is emotional. He can't tolerate even a saddle pad. What do you recommend to facilitate his emotional healing? Sandra, let's go to you on that one. What do you think?
So at the advanced level of Psyche, and Psyche is available for people to learn all over the world. I just use it in a particular way when I'm working with animals. We can use a process called surrogation, which is a quantum link up, a superconscious connection at the highest epi level of consciousness between two consciousnesses. So I can connect with, for example, this horse's through his superconscious mind to transform, to see if there's a message, first of all, either for the horse or for the human, but to transform the trauma associated with whatever it is that relates to the saddle. So I love the ability to, it's kind of like my way of being an animal communicator. Lisa does it in a different way, no less beautiful, but I use the process that I learned that helps me connect with the animal. And then through the muscle testing, we can find out whether or not it's a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, traumatic, relational, situational, environmental, whatever the cause is, and then to be able to transform and work with that for the horse. It can also actually be a message for the human as well. So to pay attention because some horses just, that's not how they want to have the relationship unfold. Some horses don't want to be ridden. I know it's hard for us to want to hear that, but it's the truth. So maybe the message is about, well, how do I feeling this person might not like this answer, but how do I transform or create a different kind of relationship? I know people come out and they want to just jump on horses. When people come here, they say, oh, can we go for a ride? It's like, well, you have to have a relationship with the horse and see if they invite you to have that kind of an experience with them or not. So what I teach is always asking for the invitation. So ask the horse if it's okay to place the saddle. Look for the invitation. Bring that piece of equipment to the horse as well. In terms of practical horsemanship, that would be a lovely start too. And Lisa, you're going to have another perspective. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Want to take that one as well, Lisa?
Yeah, I would actually. And that's a really interesting one. And I love the way Sandra answered it there. And for me, I would give the horse a voice. I would ask the horse, you know, what's going on. And even if the horse, sometimes when animals are caught up in their traumas, they're not exactly sure, like it's too big for them. They can't have that outer perspective. So I would then go up onto a soul level as well, and see what comes down and what is the key root to this trauma. Like, what were the exact emotions? What exactly happened? And when we can identify that through intuitive processes, like Sandra would in a slightly different way, I would then begin to heal that for the horse using flower essences. You know, flower essences, gem and mineral essences, they're so powerful at going to all the layers, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual layers, and the physical body, and removing the trauma so the horse can breathe. And then we can have a new conversation with the horse when that stress has been taken away from them, and then you see how they are then. But I have to so agree with Sandra on the sense that not all horses want to be ridden. And I know it's a bit because I'm in the horse world a lot, down the stables with the girls, and I'm not riding the horses, and I'm seeing problems developing and getting stronger with horses because they're not being listened to. And there's so many beautiful ways, like to relate to horses on the ground without actually having to ride them. You know, I've got my friend 40's a massive Irish draft horse, and I hand walk him, and I'm trying to keep up with him. Like, and I know the girls in the stable, they probably think I'm a bit weird, but I don't want to put a bit in his mouth in his saddle and jump up on him, unless he wants me to, as Sandra says, but he's too old, as some of them ride him, but for me, he's too old.
You are weird, Lisa, just so you know. Yeah, you're definitely weird.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, do you want to take the next question there from Kim McElroy? You see that there, Easy?
Yeah. How are the animals staying connected to us after they pass? So for me, when I do, I call them animal in spirit readings. So when the animals have passed over, I usually like to do these readings not immediately after the animal has passed, because it's actually too soon for the guardian, and I feel they're genuinely looking for support for their grief rather than connecting to the animal. It's better. I always say, look, let's give it some time. And I create, I send them off to other people who can support them on a human level. And then maybe they'll come back to me like a year later, 2 years later, and I'll do an animal in spirit reading then. And the animal is spot on. They know exactly what's going on in the life of the human still, the message that come true, because I don't know what's going to happen when they read the reading, but it's the tears, the release of the emotions, even though it's 2 years later. So for me, from my experience, I believe the animals are just always there. And my cat Mikey, who passed away 2 years ago, chatting away to him, because I believe he's listening, just from my experience of working with animals in that way. I hope that answers your question, Kim.
Brilliant. And actually, you know what I'm going to do here? This is an interesting question. I'm scrolling down a bit, but I'm going to go to Margaret Comerford's question. And because I actually saw this online recently. There's a dog that has gone missing for quite some time, for a few months. Dog's name is Pochine, which is a whole other story. And it belongs to her friend Marion. Just between both of you there, is there anything you can say or connect to see where this dog has gone? You see that question, Margaret Comerford?
Yeah, sorry, I've been froze there. Actually, I know Pochine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I know Marion. And so for Pochine, You know, I actually can't share too much about it because we did a workshop recently where Marion came on as our guest animal guardian with her other dog, Kenny. And it came because Kenny and Puchin were really good friends. And it did come up about Puchin in the reading, and we asked Kenny if he knew what had happened because Kenny was with Puchin. So, you know, whatever transpired from that reading, what we did was it was actually a group of animal communicators. It was me and all my students, and we were just all communicating, you know, in the moment and getting very similar stuff, but without conversing with each other. Then we all said it afterwards, and we all had very similar experiences and answers. So we then relayed them back to Marion, and that's, you know, that we hope has given her some clues if on how she could possibly get Puchin back.
Okay, and Sandra, this is a total curveball for you, but do you pick anything up here?
Well, how I would approach it is how to find anything lost. And first of all, it has to be safe and appropriate for that animal for me to ask those questions. And as I check this right now, it's not.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what's going on with Putin, but right now I can't, I'm not allowed to connect in.
Okay, that's fine. This is another question here for Lisa from Ursula O'Gorman. Who do you mean when you say guardian of the animal?
Oh yeah. So I don't like the word owner. You know, I'm the dog's owner. I'm the horse's owner. So I just feel the word guardian is a more nicer way of expressing the relationship that the animals have, because nobody owns another soul. So I use the word guardian. It's less jarring for me.
Okay. This looks like one for Sandra. Maura says that she took up horse riding last year. She goes once a week. She's still a bit nervous of the horses, but she seems to have a good affinity with whichever horse she's given. And she's just had 2 horses over the years. So I suppose just looking for a general comment about that, being a bit nervous around horses, and how do you get a bit more secure with that?
Tell them that you're nervous. Yeah, just speak with them. And it sounds like she's already doing that. And it's like Lisa was saying, animals speak in pictures. So if we're afraid of picking up a horse, that we're going to get kicked when we pick up a horse's hoof to clean their hooves, that's the picture that's in our mind. And that's what we're sending the horse. That's what the horse is picking up on. So we have to get grounded and centered. And it's like sending the video out of what we want to see before we get on the horse or before we're with the horse. So really establish what the picture is, what the feeling is, the feeling of comfort, connection, etc., and be in that. It's conscious riding, it's conscious horsemanship. It's about being fully present with who we are. And if at any point we feel nervous or unsafe, not that I'm the most massive fan of the Pirelli perspectives, but I love what his wife said when she said, you know, if you feel nervous when you're riding a horse, get off. And I love that, because we're so much taught, you stay on, you get back on, and all of this. Well, how about listening to your intuition, which I didn't do, which is why I had my riding accident with Chiron. So it's kind of like, no, if your intuition is saying all's good, beautiful. If your intuition is saying go this way, go this way. If it's saying get off, get off. So be in your body. That's the safest place to be with horses. And if your body is telling you something, listen to it. And then just watch the magic that happens. And the horses that go, hey, she's actually hearing what I'm saying. This is pretty amazing. I like this person.
Okay. Thanks for that question. And we have one now from Orna. Do you want to take that one, Lisa, about the visitor cats?
Where is it now? Lisa, what is your take on visitor cats? I saved a cat from 5 magpies. So she has this cat visitor that she allows to come and visit, but he has his own life. And when his official owners leave him out when he goes on holidays, he meanders over. you know. So I think let the cat do that, you know, because again, they have their own social life. They have, I love animals that are free to make their own friends and to do their own thing. My cats used to do that. They would go in and watch TV with my neighbor. She had a cat flap and she'd sit with them on their lap watching EastEnders. I could see over in London over the back wall, and she would mind them for me unofficially whenever I went away and left the cat food out. So I think that the cats that do that are just expressing themselves. And for me, I feel as an animal lover, I have a cat because it can jump over the wall. He can jump over the wall and go on and do his own thing. For me, I always feel bad having a dog that's restricted in a garden and can't go off and do their own thing. So I love that the cats can do that and express themselves in that way. And some country dogs as well that are still free roaming. So he's been your friend.
Orna follows on there about her mum's illness. Her mum has now passed, and she got out of the car down home and turned around. She expected our dog Rufus to come bounding around the corner, but Rufus had been gone for over 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, she's feeling Rufus's spirit. See, they don't go away. They're there.
Mm. Beautiful. And Kim makes a comment there, Sandra, about that was beautiful wisdom about the dog. Potchine's wisdom is perfect timing. Okay, brilliant. Okay. So any more questions, folks? Keep them coming in there. Serena just made a comment that thank you for the beautiful sharing. She's there with her friend. I presume it's a dog, yeah. And they're both completely relaxed. Okay, so it's nice to see everybody on their couches, chilling out. Looks like we have another question in here. For Lisa, here in Ireland, where can I learn to be around horses mindfully, like Sandra speaks of, without it being a rescue centre?
Oh, well, I'm going to hand that back to Sandra, that question, because Sandra, you've got some good contacts here in Ireland, don't you?
Brilliant.
That your
Brilliant.
work, yeah.
Well, Michelle, who's on the call, and Yvonne Monaghan, Michelle Devitt and Yvonne Monaghan, they were the ones that asked me to come and speak at Equine Assisted Ireland last year. So be in touch with them, and you can find them, I'm assuming, through the EAL website. They're my dear darls. I see you, Michelle. And then in June, this past June, I was supposed to be there meeting with Paul and Lisa, but also teaching a conscious horsemanship workshop. So as soon as it's feasible for travel again, we'll be doing that likely at Yvonne's place in Rogerstown. So keep your eyes and be in touch with Lisa or I about that. And I think to just, when people contact me and they see, Sandra, who should I work with? Where should I go? How do I learn? Listen to your heart. If there's a resonance within you with the person that's doing the teaching or the leading or the speaking, then follow your heart, and there'll be something there waiting for you. And the horses will also let you know. Like, look at how the horses behave when you go to that center. Are there lights on in their eyes? Are they present? Are they connected? Or are they tuned out and shut off and dissociated? That's going to be a real positive clue for you, or powerful clue, whether you're in the right spot or not. Because even though I'm saying these words, it goes way deeper than the words that we say. Like, the horses don't care the words that we say. They care about the words that our bodies are living and how we're moving with that. So the horses will tell you a whole lot more than the flyer will tell you. I hope that's helpful.
That's great. I've just snipped over to Facebook, and there is a question here on Facebook from Rod Morris, and he's asking, he's curious to know what you both think about omens also, and how animals might be delivering messages on behalf of others, etc. So omens from animals. Any take on that one, Sandra?
Totally love that and believe in omens and the potency or the prophecy or the wisdom or the messages, and whether it's coming from them when they're present here with us. I mean, or I mean, my beautiful Saxon, our wonderful 220-pound ancient English Mastiff passed away at the end of October. And my heart still hurts just missing him so much. but I'll have people that'll come to classes, kind of like what Lisa was saying, and the other lady was saying about the dog after 10 years, and they'll say, I think I just saw a mastiff or a big dog. I was like, well, you may have. So kind of what's the message in that for us? And I always pay attention to the signs. So if I keep seeing, so I'm doing my studies in eco-psychology right now. And it's what can we do to let the earth teach? How do we pay attention to her lessons? So if I'm out teaching a Psych K class outside, for example, and the red-tailed hawk keeps flying by, it's okay, what's the message in the red-tailed hawk? And hawks are messengers. So who noticed it? Because sometimes the bird or the animal, like the black bear came through the other day. So, but some people don't even notice it. So when we see it and notice it, what's the message in it for us? So if you're noticing always the robins in the lawn, or if you are always at the ocean and you're the only one who happens to see the porpoise go by that day, they're like Lisa was saying, and they're your guardians, they're your omens, they're your messengers. And there's all kinds of places to find out what that means, but drop that into your heart and into your body and ask yourself what it means for you. But the Nature Speak book is a really great book if you're interested in understanding what the portents or the omens or the significance or symbolism is of the animals that are showing up. Lisa.
Yeah, I think you can also extend that out to plants as well. I just love plant medicine and the healing power of plants. And sometimes if you have this weed, you think it's a weed, but this plant that just keeps growing in your garden or wherever, you go, what is this? This becoming this noxious weed. It's like, well, why is it choosing to grow in your environment? Try identify that plant and then look and research and see, well, what does it heal? Or ask the plant yourself in a meditative state, why are you here? What are you here to show me? Is there something in me that I need this plant, a homeopathic version of it or a herbal version? So, you can add to nature has its way of pointing, pointing you in the right direction.
And it's fun to watch the horses when they're just loose, not in their fields, but when, especially Grace, if Greg and I are out gardening or whatever, she'll just kind of wander around and garden with us. And I pay attention to what she goes over and takes a bite or two of. It's quite fun to watch what she's eating.
There's a lovely question here from, I think it's just a sharing from Haley. Her pony Farthing passed some years back, but years later, I dreamt about her a lot. I feel her spirit, and when I look at her photo, I can still smell her unique smell and feel her energy. Blessed. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're always with us, there's no doubt about that.
Something about the smell too, right? Like it just goes right into the amygdala and it just brings us right back to those memories. Just like we're just right there with her again. I love the name Farthing too. That's such a great name.
That's a good name. So there's a question there from Maura McLaughlin about her two cats. One of them has a disease at the moment, inflammatory bowel. She's working with him and hoping he will heal. Any comment there, Lisa, on the cat?
Yeah, I like to just share a quick story about a dog we had with really severe IBD. And again, it was one of those cases where all the allopathic vets had kind of run out of options and they said, well, this dog needs to be put down. And the guardian got in touch with me, the husband and wife, and they asked me to work on the dog. And I felt, when you have problems with the gut, a lot of the time it's anxiety and emotions and things like that. But what was really interesting about it in this particular instance, the wife was more into this work. Remember what I said at the start, intention is everything. And the husband was kind of lagging behind. But I felt when I did the reading that there was something connected to the husband, and officially the dog, the husband brought the dog into the family. So there was that extra connection there. So when I was treating the IBD with the flower essences, I got the husband to put them on his palm and stroke them into the dog's coat. And then we got Emily, the homeopathic vet, she came at it from the other side with the homeopathy and the change of diet, putting the dog onto a raw diet. And sure enough, the dog put all the weight back on, the IBD disappeared, and the dog is totally fine now, back to normal. And the husband kind of took it on, you know.
Brilliant, brilliant.
From a belief perspective, if we allow the possibility of our animals to have beliefs, and they certainly do, except that maybe they're not languaged in the same way we would language them. Things to do with the bowel and the colon very often have to do, and I know it's not going to come as any surprise to any of you, letting go. So what is it that needs to be let go of that hasn't been? And this can also be for the dog per se, but it also can be for the owners, coming back to what did I need to transform within myself so Chiron could be freed for his body to reclaim homeostasis. If we ask ourselves that question, maybe if we do it with anybody else listening, so we can go into the shadow part of it possibly, or the vulnerability part of it, is there anything that we as the guardians or the companions need to let go of that we've been holding on that would free our dog to be able to do the same?
Brilliant, brilliant. It's a great question. Thank you, Maura. Now let me see, where am I going next? Alexandra says thank you. Haley, I'm glad you got some shivers there. That's nice. Okay, so any more questions, feel free to ask. I'm just going to go over to Facebook here and see if there's anything in there. Okay. Okay, so feel free to type anything in there. Anybody wants anything? Oh, we got a new one coming in there. Okay. Yeah, so Maura is saying thank you for your intuitive responses, Lisa and Sandra. And Nicola is saying just a big thank you for this session. Yeah, it's been really beautiful, and we've still got a little bit more time to go. And just as we've been exploring all of this, it's felt really, really natural, the flow. And it's just, the work that you both do is so beautiful, you know. You must feel so rewarded by this work. I just want to ask you now, Sandra, what's going on right now in your own life? What's happening? Any courses coming up in Canada? What are you up to over there? Are you writing a book? What are you expressing what you're doing right now?
Well, because of this wonderful incubation and inoculation, or whatever we want to call it, the initiation that we're going through globally, my classes were, at least the Psych K classes, were put on hold for quite a while. I'll be teaching one this coming weekend, so that's starting to open up here. I just finished teaching a certification program in equine guided development and learning. So that's, my horse things are mostly finished for this year. I'll start up again next year and hopefully be back in Ireland to see my beautiful friends there. My dear friend Kim McElroy, who's on this call, who is this artist,
oh, wow.
And I are writing and creating a card deck, a wisdom card deck, that is all about mythic horses. And of course, the Kelpie and beautiful mythic horses, as well as the horses we share our everyday lives, are going to be part of that. So that's a project that I'll be working on. And I'm just starting to do a Quantum Leap in Consciousness Global Summit that'll be airing in January. We're just starting to send out the invitations for that. So that's kind of what's keeping me busy. And then of course there's always manure to pick up. So that's a regular part of every day.
Okay,
so
you're picking up the manure.
I am, that's where the downloads come. I don't know if you horsewomen notice and gentlemen notice the same thing, but it's a whole brained activity, right? So we're crossing the midline of the body, we're creating this whole brain environment, and then when we're in that space, it's amazing how these insights tend to drop in. As long as I remember them by the time I get back to the house.
Okay, so we have a question there over on Facebook. Oh, they're coming in nicely here. So from Belen, she's asking, are the dogs selective in love, or do they love everyone the same? Oh, that's a good question. Okay. Mm. That's actually my girlfriend asking that question, and her dog loves me more than her. I'm only joking. But her dog, he's a little bit selective. He's a little Shih Tzu, and yeah, he's definitely kind of selective. So what's your take on that? Do you feel dogs can be like that? They prefer? I suppose they do, yeah.
It's not been my experience that dogs love everyone the same.
Okay.
I think that they have choices and preferences and opinions just like we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that one of the things that I say to my daughters who are 22 and 23 now, it's like when they were bringing friends over or boyfriends over, I would watch how the dogs would behave or the horses would behave, and also importantly how those people would behave around the animal. So it's not an equal playing field, I don't think. I think they have preferences.
Okay, and Lisa?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. We really associate them with unconditional love, dogs, you know? Yeah.
And also sometimes they have their own stuff going on, you know, like, believe it or not, dogs get depressed. So I've had dogs that, you know, just cannot relate to people because there's just, you know, they're grieving the loss of a, you know, someone else in their life or an animal or a person, and they're just, so they're just like us, just as complex, you know, and beautiful.
Okay. Haley is asking about the horse cards. When will they be available? And could you please post a pre-release info on your social media pages that she would love to get the cards. Sandra, when will they be coming out?
Thank you, Haley. And that is the question of the day, isn't it? We're just finishing writing the prologue and the introduction. We have an agent, and we hopefully have some publishers that are going to be excited to support this. So it's beautiful to know that you're excited about them. And as soon as there's something that's tangible and manifested to share, I will absolutely let everybody know. Thank you.
Brilliant. And Rod is coming up with a question on Facebook. He said he got a new dog and it's terrified of him, and he's wondering why. He picked her up a few months ago, so he wonders if she's associating him with being separated. How can I fix this? It's a new mongrel puppy. Collected her a few months ago, and she was only 8 weeks old. She was fine in the car with me, and he's only in the house with her a few days a week. So she's very scared of him at the moment. How can he ease that for the dog? How can I tell her I love her, he says.
You know, Paul, it's sometimes in my experience, a lot of dogs or animals are more fearful of men than they are of women. There could have been something, I don't know the history of that dog without doing a proper reading, but there could have been something that happened to the puppy before with a man, before the puppy met this new guardian, and now has that kind of affiliation. Oh, here's another man, it could be dangerous. Or sometimes with puppies, when they express problems so young on, it may go back into a previous life. Okay, and they carry over past life traumas, and they be healed as they need to be healed. But you know, aside from going that deep into the work, I just want to give him something that he can do now, which is there's a great range. I'm sure people might have heard about the Australian bush flower essences, and there's one there called Emergency Essence. It has a lot of great remedies in it. You can get it online, get it in a health food shop. It's not expensive, and put it on his palm, and just, you know, either put it into the puppy's food if the puppy's too afraid for him to touch, or if puppy eventually might let him stroke it in, then he becomes the healing source for the puppy. So yeah, that would be some top line stuff for me when I see a problem with a puppy like that. It's like, where, you know, why is it happening originally?
Okay. Would you like to add anything, Sandra?
Yeah, I'd love to share. So this is a beautiful opportunity for him to become the transitional object or the transitional human, to be the corrective emotional experience for this puppy. And this puppy has come into your life for a reason, and maybe he or she is your teacher as opposed to the other way around. So what is it that you need to do and become and believe? What presence do you need to have and stay in to help this puppy feel safe with you? And it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. We adopted a feral cat about 6 months old, and now he comes in and sleeps on me. He's 9 years old now, but it took about a year before he would even let me touch him. So patience, 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 and love. And sometimes something important too that my horse Chiron taught me, and horses teach, they can be high sensitive animals, just like there's highly sensitive people, and their energy fields are quite big. So to actually contact them can almost feel abusive, abrupt, and violent. So to pat the puppy on his energy, on his or her energy field, to be present but at a distance, to be connected yet apart. These are some really important things that the horses have taught me over the years, that we don't have to be touching to be connected. So one of the ways you can show him or her that you, and tell that you love him, sure, tell them, but look for that space. So as you approach the field, as soon as the puppy turns away or contracts, you stop and you back off. And that gives them the trust in you that you're reading them, you're listening to them. That's a good place to start. I hope that helps.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks, Rod. Orna is sharing some more info there on cats.
I saw that. I think that's an interesting one there, Paul.
Yeah.
Where she mentioned that the cat helped her when she broke her
surgery.
arm.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the cat went to the neighbor who had, after he had knee surgery. I believe that the vibration of cats' purrs is a very potent and healing. The sound, because cats' bones will actually heal a lot quicker than a dog's bone will, or any other being, because of the vibration of their own purr knits the bone back together again. So based on that, I believe that I was kind of giggling when I read that about Orna saying the cat was sitting on her lap when she broke her arm. I believe the cat was healing her to the purr vibrations.
Beautiful. Helen saying, do you do readings online? I think we'll get into that at the end. I'd like you both to tell everybody what it is, how they can follow up on your work. We'll do that at the end. Constance has a comment about that the animals, the plants, the stones are all absorbing the challenging human energies related to COVID, and we need to be aware and listen and support them. This is a lovely way to finish, actually. What do you both think about COVID and how animals are dealing with it and helping us get through this?
Yeah. Do you want to go, Sandra?
You can go. You go first.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I had a very interesting conversation with Georgie earlier on, just before this session, because I just thought I always like to check in to see if there's something that they want me to say. And Georgie kind of came up with this metaphor where it's almost like if you imagine you have a group of animals and you give them, they're wild animals, and as what's happening, the rainforests are shrinking, right? And this is the image he gave me. And the animals still, although they're living in a smaller perimeter, they're still living wild in that part of the jungle as they normally would. But actually on the outside of it there's a big stressor coming in, but they're staying strong. They're not necessarily worrying completely about what's going on around them. They're staying present in the moment. So he gave me that imagery because he feels that humanity right now and all that's going on and all the stressors, he was a little bit kind of sharp with it in the sense that he said, you feel like on some level you're being oppressed, whether your choice of oppression is the virus itself, all the rules around it, that's all a personal decision, and people respond to it in different ways. But in a way, on some level, humanity right now is almost being told what to do, dictated to on some level. And he felt that the natural world has been under that pressure so long and so much more by humanity, what we've done to the planet and done to the earth. So his advice was that if you want to do your best for everybody, is to stay compassionate, to stay present in your microcosm, that if you have a beautiful home, a beautiful house to live in, you're one of those fortunate people, and this isn't coming into your home, by you staying present and being able to then focus your compassion on the animals, on the plants, on the other people that are truly, truly suffering in the world because of what's going on right now, then you're a better service and you're a better help to everybody. So that was a strong message for him. In other words, stay present, just like the animals can stay present whilst they have all this stuff going on around them, as they have for quite a while now with us human beings.
Sounds like your cat hangs out with Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, I don't know.
Your cat's a genius. So,
Well,
Sandra, what's your take? This is a good way to finish, I think. What's your take on all of this?
Well, I think Gaia has been patient with us for a really long time, and this is kind of like how a horse would kick us in the pants when it's time to get up and show up. So for me, when I was checking in with what did I need to bring to the conversation today, and I already shared it with Paul and Lisa, it was this beautiful passage from John O'Donohue. And if I may, I'll just read it because I think it answers the question just perfectly. And maybe it's a lovely, I mean, how can you not want to start and end with John O'Donohue anyway, right?
Go for it.
So it's called To Learn from Animal Beings. So I think this is the answer to the question, how the animals would respond. It says, nearer to the earth's heart, deeper within its silence, animals know this world in a way that we never will. We who are ever distanced and distracted by the parade of bright windows thought opens, their seamless presence is not fractured thus. Stranded between time, gone and time emerging, we manage seldom to be where we are, whereas they are always looking out from the here and now. There's our Eckhart Tolle. May we learn to return and rest in the beauty of animal being and learn to lean low, leave our locked minds, and with freed senses, feel the earth breathing within us, because we are not separate from her. We are her. May we enter into lightness of spirit and slip frequently into the feel of the wild. Let the clear silence of our animal being cleanse our hearts of corrosive words. And may we learn to walk upon the earth with all their confidence and clear-eyed stillness, so that our minds might be baptized in the name of the wind and the light and the rain. John O'Donohue.
gorgeous.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think that takes us right into our meditation at the end. There's a couple more comments coming in there, but I'm going to, everybody just saying what a lovely journey. Jonathan, what a journey that was for me there, grieving and feeling my house from 20 years ago. Okay, some lovely comments coming in. Thank you everybody for joining in tonight. That was wonderful, really enjoyed it. And lovely now that we have it all recorded and it'll be up on YouTube later on for people who want to catch the replay. Before I go into the meditation, I just want to say that we've got some really nice guests coming up over the next while. I'm going to do more of these events, and we've got some great people coming up. Next guest that we have is actually Foster Gamble on October the 8th, the director of Thrive, which you probably saw that movie, Sandra and Lisa.
Great movie.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I showed Thrive back in 2012, and he's releasing a new Thrive Part 2. It's coming out the end of the month. So we're going to interview him and his wife on October the 8th here on Zoom as usual. So you're all very welcome to join in on that one. And hopefully sometime we'll get Bruce Lipton as a guest. That's why I want to chase down Bruce. Okay. So Sandra, you've been amazing. Thank you for being here with us. And Lisa, you've been beautiful. Two of you work so well together, and it's a lovely slant that you both share. So thank you for adding so much to this evening. And all our participants, lovely to have you. Brilliant. So I'll just do a quick meditation before we finish. Invite you all, if you wish, to put your hand on your heart. And that light that you put on at the beginning in your heart, I want you to just feel that activated again. Feel your body fill with that light. And I feel that we're being invited right now, as the chat that we've had tonight, to go back to the earth, to take our shoes and socks off, to run in the grass, to feel our feet grounded into the earth, into our mother, and to connect more with the animals, to connect more with the kind of pulse of life. So just when you're in your heart center now, just feel that light go on, and we're going to spread that light out across the earth right now and connect it with pure raw consciousness, animals, insects, the teeming of life, the water, the waterfalls, nature, forests, the trees, the fungi, just the real pulsing of natural life. Just feel yourself connect with that right now from your heart center. Feel yourself tuning into that frequency and breathing with that frequency. And let go of the separation now. Feel yourself merge with that. Nature is you, you are nature. Feel that sense of oneness now as you merge with all that is. And now we spread that to everybody here connected on this call. We connect our hearts together. We feel that sense of oneness. Connect to the people watching in the Positive Club. All on this call right now. We connect our hearts and we just send a little bit of oneness, a little bit of appreciation, a little bit of kindness, and a little bit of love to each other right now. And as you're sending that out from your heart, make sure you receive it from the other participants back into your heart. And keep that light on in your heart. As you open your eyes, let that bring a smile to your face. Feel your feet rooted in the earth. See your bare feet in the land, in the buried, dug into the ground, dug into the earth. Feel yourself nice and grounded. Open your eyes when you're ready. Brilliant. That was beautiful. Thanks, everybody. I really enjoyed it, and wish you all well. Lisa, any last words before we go?
Yeah, just I know one of the girls on there was asking if she wanted to get help with her animals, so people can get me on animalhealing.ie. If you want to, spread the love for the animals, I'm here to help you do that in any way I can.
Brilliant, brilliant. And Sandra, where people want to get a hold of you, where do they go?
They can go to chironsway.com, Chiron like the centaur, chironsway.com. And I'd love to hear from you. If you would like to reach out, happy to receive your reaching. It'd be lovely to share back. And I want to thank you, Paul, very much it's lovely to meet you in person, even though it's across. And Lisa, thank you for the beautiful connection, and everyone who is there, the love that you hold and the space you're holding for the beautiful creatures we share our lives with and the beautiful natural environment that we're existing on. Thank you for all that you're doing for each other and for that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sandra. And you do both offer healings readings online for everybody. Anybody wants to follow up and have a reading, you do them online, I presume, yeah? Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And with final comment to finish on, I think it's perfect. Helen Healy says that she just had a mouse join her.
I love it.
You can't beat that. You can't beat that. Okay, everybody. Love to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. Thank
See
you
you
so
again
much.
soon. See you again soon.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Sam.
Bye,
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Lots of love to you all. Brilliant.